He was the only Mustang in a sky full of lightnings, and he slid into their formation like he'd been there all along. On his 19th combat mission, 2nd Lieutenant Clarence A. Oliphant of Omaha, Nebraska, a Tuskegee Airman and Colonel Benjamin O. Davis Jr.'s all-black fighter group, took off late, missed his own squadron, and ended up flying as number 4 in a formation of white crude P-38s all the way to a bombing target in southeastern Austria. Oliphant was supposed to be flying a red-tailed P-51 Mustang with a 99 Fighter Squadron, part of the 332nd Fighter Group, the Red Tails, escorting bombers for the U.S. 15th Air Force out of Italy. Instead, after that late takeoff from an air base in Italy, he looked up, saw a formation of twin-engine P-38 Lightnings, and radioed home for permission to tag along. A lone black Mustang pilot dropping into another unit's formation in the middle of a segregated air war. The 99th Fighter Squadron was the first black fighter squadron in U.S. history, formed from graduates of the Tuskegee Army Airfield program in Alabama. By 1944, the 99th had been folded into the 332nd Fighter Group under Colonel Benjamin O. Davis Jr., flying P-51 Mustangs with the distinctive red tails from bases in Italy on bomber escort missions deep into Axis territory. Oliphant's story begins with a late takeoff on what would be his 19th combat mission. He climbed out alone, flying on course in an effort to catch his formation, but the Mustangs of his own group were already too far ahead. After several minutes, he spotted a formation of P-38 Lightnings, likely from another 15th Air Force fighter group, heading the same general direction toward a target in southeastern Austria. Checking in with the controller at his home airfield by radio, Oliphant asked for and received permission to join up with the P-38s rather than abort or wander alone across enemy territory. He closed in on the Lightnings with his single-engine P-51 and took position at the rear of the formation. Shortly afterward, one P-38 had to leave the group for unknown reasons, and Oliphant slid into the now-empty number 4 slot, effectively becoming part of that unit's flight. The mixed formation, P-38s and one P-51, reached its bombing target somewhere in southeastern Austria, part of the 15th Air Force's campaign against rail yards, oil installations, and industrial centers feeding the German war machine. When the Lightnings dropped their bombs, they completed their primary mission, but Oliphant, flying a fighter without bombs, was in his own words determined to contribute something toward the success of the mission. Lacking internal ordnance, he did the one thing he could. He shoved his red-tailed Mustang into a dive over the target area and released both of his external wing fuel tanks, turning them into additional fuel for the fire over the objective. Although the resulting damage is up for debate, the act itself shows a young pilot try to make sure his presence meant more than simply filling a slot in a formation. After the attack, he stayed with the P-38s on the homeward leg, effectively trading his assigned squadron for a borrowed one for the day. Close to his own base, he broke away with a steep chandelle, a climbing, turning maneuver called goodbye over the radio to the other pilots headed in to land at the Tuskegee Airman's field in Italy. On paper, this is a small story, one sortie among thousands flown by the 99th and 332nd in 1944 and 1945. But the fact that a black P-51 pilot from Colonel Davis's group could quietly slide into a white P-38 formation, complete a mission into Austria, and be reported home as just another competent combat flyer tells us something about how skill in the air undermined segregation in practice, even before the military was officially integrated. His 19th mission shows the everyday professionalism of these men. Laid off the ground, he didn't turn back. He didn't waste time. He checked in with control, joined another unit's formation, and did everything he could to make the sortie count. When people talk about the Tuskegee Airmen, they usually mention the red tails, the escort record, maybe 1 or 2 aces. They almost never talk about a day when a lone black P-51 pilot from Colonel B. O. Davis's group tucked himself in a P-38 formation, dropped his fuel tanks over Austria, and flew home with white comrades who'd just seen, up close, what the 99th could do. If you want to keep learning about Black Americans during World War II, subscribe and stay with this channel as we make more of these stories known.